Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. V back with another casted game of Age of Empires 3. Now, I usually don't start with the game paused, and I don't usually start this excited, but it's because, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by one of my favorite people in the entire community for what I think is going to be one of the best 2v2s I have ever watched. But I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm gonna let him introduce himself. MFD, how are you, sir?
Hey man, super honored to be casting with you again after a long time that we never had the chance or never got the chance to do that again. And I'm looking forward to casting this game particularly because there's a good friend, at least of mine in there as well, McCleves, playing Ethiopia. And I really do want to see what he's got cooking there for us.
Yeah. Well, then let's get this game started, MFD. I will not keep you waiting. As you said, in the southwestern part of the map, in the color purple, we have McCleves playing as Ethiopia, and to the east is his teammate, 3D Jacob, playing in the color red as the civilization of France, going with the very early trading post next to his base. And in the northeast of the map, in the color blue, playing as the Ottomans, we have Charlie-C45, putting up a mosque and a house right away. And then topping off our players in the northwest, of the map, playing as Mexico in the color yellow, we have a name I cannot pronounce. You want to give that a shot, MFD?
Shabby Chef, I'd say, something like that.
Shabby.
Let's just keep it at Chef. Charlie and Chef in the one team,
Chef.
Jacob and McCleves in the one. And it's funny enough because with Jacob and McCleves, we've got, the two of us, as two YouTubers and two more playing the game. So in this entire session, in this video, you've got 4 YouTubers already because Jacob is uploading his own stuff. And McCleves, obviously part of the Age of Empires channel and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's kind of a content creator clash. But yeah, we do have Ottoman and Mexico versus France and Ethiopia on the map of Malaysia. Just had to double check that. Pretty wide map, lots of hunts, even some water options here, MFD. But the thing I'm noticing is you have Ottoman and you have Mexico allied together. Does that pretty much guarantee that they are going to be the aggressors, or are they going to play a little more boomy against France and Ethiopia?
I think if it was just France, then you could certainly just go for a more defensive, more boomy playstyle here, because Mexico obviously can do almost anything here, as can Ottoman to some extent at least. But I do think that with the current meta, McCleves with Ethiopia overall in 1v1 situations, a bombastically strong civ. Against a lot of matchups that are otherwise really hard to deal with. And generally speaking, in team games, their units excel even more, I think. And it's easier for them to accumulate that economy that makes them so strong, especially in team games. So I do think that we are going to see the aggression from our upper northern team, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's well said. And when I look at Ottoman's deck, check this out, MFD. He's got no units in his deck, but he's just got a ton of upgrades. And he sent his 3 vills first off, and then meanwhile you had Chef, who, what was his first card? He sent
two villages and the hacienda waiting. Yeah.
Yep. And then meanwhile, I mean, it looks pretty standard for Ethiopia and for France. I mean, I'm not seeing anything too out of the box.
I'm seeing something.
Uh-oh, what are you seeing? What are you seeing?
Look at the market. Look at the market.
Oh my!
And tell me how many yucks you see there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 yaks.
It's
MFD.
stacked.
What in the world does that mean? Because as you know, I am an expert in many civs, but Ethiopia is not one of them. Nice treasure pickup here. Is this a treasure contention? Oh, no. Okay, they're teammates. 70 wood for Ottoman. Really nice pickup there.
But decent teamwork, and it's in the half of the enemy, so I would say you could count it as a treasure steal, more or less. But
yeah, basically.
Well done, certainly.
Yeah. Oh, so many yaks.
And even more cows. And that's the thing. If you're playing with each other, and if your partner plays anything like Ethiopia or Hausa, those two civs probably benefit the most out of early extra livestock. And McCleves is stocked. He is stacked, fully stacked. He's got, 13, 14 animals there?
Yeah, 3 more
Can't
yaks.
even sell them fast enough.
Yeah, being brought in by the French scout. And meanwhile, MFD, we do see some forward villagers here from the Ottoman player. And it looks like Mexico has clicked up, as has France. And Ottoman is already in the second age. So Ottoman actually quite a bit ahead of the other players. And with the 3 forward vills, I think your prediction is going to come to pass. I think we're going to see something aggressive here from Mexico and Ottoman.
Yeah, those guys definitely look very, very sus at the moment. The interesting combination, though, the interesting question here is, though, what are we going to see out of Mexico? Because when we see a forward base, we could see, for example, the Pikes, the Insurgentes by Mexico, and behind that, just a bunch of Avis guns. But what building is that?
So going with the barracks. So I think this is going to be
Barracks.
just pure Janissary from Ottoman, which makes sense.
Yeah, but what do you put behind this Mexico? Because I don't think you want to start Mexico off in a team game with their skirms, with skirm-gen combination. That seems a bit weird. So we will see what we get out of Mexico.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering, do you go like for some sort of early artillery play with Mexico? I mean, there is that option.
Oh, you mean just a revolution into
just a revolt into like falconets with Janissaries behind them.
Oh, my head is already hurting. Yeah, that might just be what we see here, because depends if Ottoman starts Janissaries though, but we're going to see from the resources that are going to be sent through next, or from look at the macro.
Yeah,
the macro is very suspicious.
Yeah, it's I don't know. All those resources are lining up quite evenly, and we do see the military wagon coming out to the middle of the map. 5 Janissaries already out, and meanwhile, we see Jacob and McCleves.
It's ref time.
Yeah, I don't know if... Oh, man. If you are Charlie and Chef, do you just go straight for McCleves before this cattle investment can pay off?
Absolutely. If you see what the hell he's got in his base and you want to kill it as fast as possible, and as we speak of it, there comes the revolution. And
God.
Look at the flag. Central America going for the artillery foundry, and we're going to see 700 coin as the first card here.
Oh gosh, and this is going to be so strong, because I don't know, France is a bit of a slow start here. Though once they get rolling, they can really start to get a really strong Age 2 composition. But just the stable for now, which against this many Janissaries, I don't know if Hussars are going to be that effective. And then as Ethiopia, what do? Do you just try to mass gas Kenya, or what unit do you counter falconets with in the Commerce Age?
Yeah, it's most of the time you just go for Kenyas, because the DPS on those guys is absolutely freaking insane. It is out of this world, and can I just say how ridiculous the fight is?
we have Aboon.
Mexico thought they're going to win this. They thought they're going to win this, but no.
We have Aboon and Jean de la Selle versus Carlos Salazar Barragan. 45 XP going in for McCleves. That's actually a nice little pickup for him. And the artillery foundry is down. MFD. The falconets are on the way. And meanwhile, it looks like Charlie has gotten a pretty decent mass of Janissaries to complement them right here.
Yeah, don't forget this is a team game, so we are at 7 minutes. In 7 minutes, seeing 2 falconets and 50 muskets out is good timing in this scenario. The question is, can they do the damage that they need to do to make their own investments pay off here?
Right, and Jacob's got his Hussar split right now, and that might actually be a decent way for him to try to get in and snipe these falconets, but 2 Hussars are not going to snipe down a falconet quickly enough, especially when you have Janissaries so close. And look at that. You are exactly right, MFD. They are zeroing in. They smell the cattle. They hear the moos, and they do not want to let that stand. They're going right for that base.
They're going to make some burgers here if McCleves isn't careful, to be honest. I mean, that is... Just think about how many resources there is that is stored up there potentially. Not even speaking of the influence trickle, but just the fact that there's... If it was just food, that would be, 5, 6, 7,000 food, something like this. Converting that to all of the resources, that is a treasure you cannot leave in the hands of the enemy.
Yeah, and
that's why they're focusing it.
And we have 5 gas Kenya here, and here come the Hussar, but the Janissary is doing such a nice job, basically just hovering over those falconets. And now we even see some levied bowmen come out, but those falconets taking down the livestock penner, or what do you call the version of it? The market? Is that what you call it?
Livestock markets. No, wait, it's the what's it called?
I compare
Is it the
everything.
livestock market? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I compare everything to the European counterpart. So sometimes I feel like I don't actually get the names right. But the gas Kenya going down, and what a nice job by Charlie here. He's doing such a fine job just protecting those falconets. And we do have one that's sitting at pretty low HP. More gas Kenya coming out. They might try to snipe that one falconet, but still so many Janissaries on the map. And the Hussars have been fairly useless so far, it has to be said.
Yeah, the problem is with Hussars in this mass, in theory, it's good against Janissaries because the Janissaries have a hard time taking them out. But as I say, and as you said, they didn't do anything. They killed both remaining Falks with one sweep.
Right.
So,
but was that a worthwhile investment? I mean, he lost like 5 or 6 Hussars there, and yeah, he took down the falconets, but those falconets were already kind of wounded, and they did do quite a bit of infrastructure damage. But yeah, they are going to be able to hold that first push. But so many Janissaries, and these units are so strong. I think McCleves is going to lose his town center. Your fan favorite, MFD. What is happening, sir?
I don't like this too much for him, of course, but it was a bit too slow probably with the military build-up. All the others were too fast with their push, but one thing I got to say, I do love that the Falcons went down because that just buys them a lot of time. The 5 Huss, even if you trade equally in resources, the fact that those Falcons give you so much pressure potential just by the way that they give you this huge siege damage that you got over time and with range as well.
Yeah.
That just does a lot here.
But
as we speak, the TC goes down.
Yeah,
Jesus, that's bloody. That's harsh.
And I couldn't help but notice this out of the corner of my eye. Check it out, MFD.
Yeah.
3 more Falconets on the way. And with the town center down and only a handful of muskets and Gasconia to defend, I think the Ethiopian base is not long for this world. So if you're McCleves, do you stand and fight here? Do you try to pull back and go into your teammate's base? What's the best option here?
So one thing we have to point out, and that is the reason why he was so slow with his unit production, and also the reason why we see a church here. McCleves is actually in the 3rd age already. I didn't spot that when it happened, but he went up to 3rd age. Yeah, I think with the Jesuits probably.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, since that's why he has the church, and I think it was just caught with the trousers down more or less.
Right.
But in age 3. He has some options. One thing he needs to do, though, is I think he needs another livestock market and get those cows to safety, please. I do not want to see a mass capturing event there or anything, because that's risky having them there.
Yeah, if you're Charlie and you capture those yaks, do you just hit the delete button or do you try to get them back to your base?
If you're cocky, you try to get them back to base, of course, but the safe thing is to just kill them if you need. But honestly, in this situation, I would try to get them back because McCleves has almost nothing in military.
Right.
And Eco is suffering harsh as well. I mean, that's dead vills left and right.
Look at that.
What is France doing, though, to prevent this?
I don't know. It looks like he's maybe trying to build up a military of his own. He's got more musketeers. Looks like he sent 8 Expo and more Hussars joining the fray. But if we look at the villager count here, it's 11 for Ethiopia. It's 23 for Mexico, 31 for France, and 26 for Ottomans. So, I mean, Jacob is in the lead economically, but his teammate has been so hindered. But look at this, MFD. It looks like we're having a pincer attack. We have the crossbow and the musketeers coming in from the north. Meanwhile, in come the Hussars from the east. And it's even more Gasconia coming out. So we might have a 3-pronged attack here, MFD. Maybe they hold this second push and take out these 3 Falcons. Oh.
If they can do that, that would be a great move for sure. I mean, the circle movement here is great. I think there are some units coming to reinforce, but they're getting shot down.
Oh, look at
from blue.
Look at the pile of yak carcasses.
Oh no.
He sent one.
It happens.
He sent one Janissary to go claim all of those yaks and then just instant deleted them. But at least now, it looks like Chef and Charlie know what's coming. They've seen the French army, but reinforcing batches of Hussar along with Royal Musketeers now being sent, along with Gasconia, and we have a 4-pronged attack MFD, and this might be exactly what Jacob and McCleves need, and it looks like they're going to clean up this push relatively easily, and with units to spare. All Falconets going down.
Beautiful stuff there. Big problem you have if you play team and you have a Musk Falcon composition is that you just can't drag box micro units. You can't just position them in a way that your Falcons are automatically surrounded by your infantry here, and that is what we're seeing, because in every single fight that we saw so far, the Cav was always able to get on top of the Falconets, doing huge damage, surpassing the ranged resistance, just countering that unit so hard. And beautiful fight here, beautiful hold, and the score surprisingly close for the fact that McCleves is pretty much dead.
Yeah, you would think that he'd be down by more than just about 1,500 score, but the French army, he's going to have to carry right for a while at least until McCleves is able to rebuild his economy and get some more infrastructure up. But now we see a switch to insurgentes, maybe going to try to go on some sort of raid and just search for those remaining Ethiopian villagers. But I think we might be at a bit of a ceasefire here while all 4 players rebuild. Or if you're Jacob and McCleves, do you try to take out the FB of Charlie and Chef?
I think you kind of need to. You need to get yourself some breathing space there. And that Falcon is going to go down for free, right? Come on.
No.
Jacob.
No, he's going to walk right past him. No, Jacob, no. Oh, so many units going down basically for nothing there. And look at this wide circling maneuver. I'm not quite sure what he's trying to do.
I just want to get the raid in there. He wanted to raid, and that's why his cav was out of position. And
he is going to get a decent raid
those
here.
volleys. He is, for sure. I mean, look at that. Especially because Yellow, don't forget, this revolution does not enable you to train any more villagers.
Yeah.
The only replenishment shipment you have is the coffee cart that gives you 1 villager per shipment sent so far. Raid card. But after losing all those vills, certainly not a good spot for Mexico.
No, and so we're kind of seeing kind of the same picture on both teams where we have one player that's drastically limited with the amount of vills that they have, and then the other player is kind of trying to carry, but meanwhile, going back to the villager count, it's now only 19 for Mexico, 32 for France, 31 for Ottoman, and a whopping 12 for McCleves, but he's now sending 8 gas Kenya, possibly going to try to reinforce Jacob here, who's charging this forward base alone. Is this the right call, or should he wait for his teammate?
The problem is that his teammate is still pretty much not dead, slowly or well, more or less quickly rebuilding. But the problem is he is the only one with army right now. He's the only one able to put pressure onto the enemy, and more. He is preventing them just marching straight into McCleves' base here. So the value that he gets out of his unit is insane.
My gosh.
I don't think you can afford to be less aggressive in this scenario, because otherwise you have vet gens now behind artillery. That is a brutal mass again.
Right. You need skirmishers. You need Jacob to get up to the third age as quickly as possible. Let's see how close he is. He's got the food, but he is lacking the coin. And I think, yes, he has sent the 700 coin. So it's going to be a while before he gets aged up. Meanwhile, he's got some delis trying to do a raid on his CDB, but luckily his French villagers are quite tough, and the delis are going to go down. This is a nice catch by Jacob here, and I like what you pointed out with just using his army not to necessarily do damage, but to buy time for his teammate. That was a really good call, MFD.
Sorry. I'm just laughing because look at the score for a second and tell me, how exactly did McCleves just come back up to speed and surpassed his teammate?
He's basically had 3 minutes of just all-out booming, right? And he's made a lot of military units at the in that time.
How many villages do we have from him? How many villages do they
for
think
McCleves? Well, it's an outstanding 17 vills. So
17 vills.
Yeah. I don't know how he's gaining that much score. He is getting out a lot of gas Kenya. He's got 30 gas Kenya along with an Aboon out on the field. And he's even getting out Nef Kenyas now. And I don't know. I don't think McCleves is out of this quite yet. But Jacob definitely needs to get to the third age so he can get Dragoons and especially skirmishers out on the field. These Expos are not going to hold up against veteran Janissaries and Falconets.
Yeah. If I see it correctly, McCleves is on 2 TCs, by the way, which is absolutely insane. But at the same time, he also has a livestock market with a bunch of animals on there. So he must have sent some kind of card with Zebu cattle or something like this. If you go a bit to the southeast, I think there's a huge livestock market with lots of animals there. Yeah. And those guys,
imagine if
they make...
Go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Imagine if he had those original cattle, though, that original herd.
Yeah.
That would be... insane.
I think if they had survived, he could just have rebuilt from that without ever sending like 1,000 or something like that. Yeah. And now that we see the wall coming out, we have to point out one thing. I think the front base, and you can't really call it front bases, to be honest, because that thing was in the middle of the two attackers' base and not really on the side of the enemy. No. The issue that we have with this is that even though they were the aggressive ones, they never really pushed out onto the map, never took map control, if that makes any sense. They are now securing their own map, of course, after Jacob has been giving them hell with his cav raids and all that, but that's the problem if you don't build your front base much further to the front and actually secure resources as well that would otherwise belong to the enemy side. Right.
And I think maybe just a little bit too much passivity here from Charlie and Chef. I mean, we see Jacob, he's been very active with his army. He's been scouting. He's been gathering treasures. And meanwhile, these guys have just kind of been happy to sit and build up their forces without really doing much with them. And that might be the window that McCleves needs to get back into this game. And we can see a large army here, and we're back into a proper 2v2 rather than a 2v1.5, which we had earlier.
Certainly, yeah. McCleves now pulling his own weight. Jacob also went up to H3 now, which is going to improve his units, especially his cav, by a ton. One thing we have to point out, though, that the water has finally been touched, at least by the northern team. So I think that Mexico sent their water cars. That also gives them fishing boats and a dock and all that. And that is great for him to replenish those lost units from before, those less those lost villages.
Yeah.
One question I do have, though, because we have not seen a lot of additional military from Mexico at this point, is Chebyshev trying to age? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, wow. Look at that call. Yeah, he did just end the revolution. And wait, is he in H4?
Yes, that's the point. The revolution, you go into the revolution H2, so it kind of acts as your semi-H3, and then once you unrevolt...
Oh, you might need to hold that thought,
at
McCleves, because we now have a huge fight on our hands. We have a bunch of Falconets and even some Tartar archers, and now the veteran Hussars actually going up against the units that they are least effective against, but these Neftenias putting down some good damage. So many veteran Janissaries, but they were able to pick off a couple of those Falconets. So a decent trade. We now have veteran skirms in for France as well. And what are those Hussars doing? Just causing a ton of trouble. And I don't know, maybe a pathing mistake there by Jacob. He might lose a lot of those Hussars for free.
Yeah, I think he wanted to just run out to the base again, but he is about to find out that all of that way is, well, walled up, so he's not going to get out of this alive.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single gap for him to get out, but he is going to see this coin mine, maybe just sacrifice those Hussars, try to trade him in for 3 or 4 villagers, but we'll have to see. And the middle base still under attack here, but the veteran Janissaries, they are so tanky that even against skirmishers, they're just not going to be able to cut through that much HP. And we are seeing the raid here actually getting some decent value. The Tartar archers not taking the Hussar out fast enough.
I think the Tartars are just not up to speed yet. I think they're still not veteran archers, if that's correct. But they still look at the damage they do to vet units here. To French cav, it is pretty strong as an anti-cav unit.
We're now at...
The only fear I do have is what kind of unit are we going to see out of Mexico? Because they have lots and lots of options, but we are not really seeing anything except for the artillery.
Right.
And do you upgrade the Falks? I don't know. Do you go for Culves to counter the big one down there, the big mortar?
Well,
I'm not too sure about it, but...
I mean, it looks like Chef right now, he does have Culves in queue, so nice call there, MFD. But
look at what he just queued. Look at his perspective in the left lower corner.
Oh my gosh, he's got heavy
cannons.
He
has his factory.
He's got his factory up. So he's not going to use it to produce resources, going to get out even more artillery. And I think that'll actually be really effective because I would say about 75 to 80% of the other team is just pure infantry who are going to be so vulnerable to that much artillery. And if you have some Culves to back them up, keep them safe, this could be really deadly, along with that huge mass of veteran Janissaries. And I'm actually kind of curious to see if Charlie is going to follow his teammate up to the 4th age. I don't know. Do you think there's that window? He has a 36 vil economy, not bad. 29 for Ethiopia, which is insane. Chef with 40, and France still in the lead with 42. So, I mean, where do both teams go from here, MFD?
I mean, the composition is something they have to think about here for sure, because both players in the southern team are more or less playing their own 1v1 compositions, if that makes any sense. We have mixed units, and in team games, even in 2v2, most of the time you see one guy going for one unit type, or maybe a second one, but rather, complementing each other instead of building fully functional armies, each on their own.
Do you think it would be...
And that is something I see critical.
Do you think it would be more effective if they used those resources just to mass a really strong 2-unit composition? Or do you think this more varied style where each player has, a 3-4 unit composition is stronger?
If you have musketeers with artillery behind it, I do think that if you just go for skirm goon with some cav and artillery probably mixed in as well, then you are in a decent spot, because the Janissaries are great in a lot of ways. They tank a lot, they are strong in fights and melee especially. But if you have well upgraded dragoons from France, for example, and the skirms from Ethiopia, then you have skirm goon out of hell, and with a 14 range you can just go in there, snipe the artillery as well as that can go, without losing too much against the gens who just don't have the ranged attack damage that normal musketeers do. And then it's just musketeer versus skirm, which is never a good trade. So I think that will be the thing to go for here.
Well, I mean, I am not jealous of Jacob. He's got like a 5-unit composition here, and I struggle to control anything past like 2. So, maneuvering all these units is going to be tough. But the amount of light infantry for Jacob and McCleves is definitely going to pose a challenge to this many veteran Janissaries. But look at the amount of cannons that are coming out from Mexico. He's got 2 heavy cannons already, 3 falconets, which he has not upgraded yet. He's got culverins on the way if they're not already here. Yeah, more heavy cannons on the way, a culverin even. But in come the veteran hussars. This might be the battle we've been waiting for, MFD. Meanwhile, that mortar, I've kind of forgotten about it, but it's doing so much damage in the back here. And out come the falconets.
Those volleys are going to be juicy if they hit properly. That's the problem with so many different unit groups. You are not in a 1v1 situation. If your enemy is just one unit type to control, then he can always, and as I'm speaking, they just F up that artillery.
What a beautiful volley there by Jacob. And it's
double aiming there.
Yeah, and another one even gets the Cove from Mexico. So Mexico's artillery at the moment, it's completely worthless. It can't engage before it, with this many culverins, they can one-shot a heavy cannon without much issue. I don't know. It looks like both teams are a little bit cautious to start the fight here. They don't want to fully engage, but things are looking really good for Jacob and McCleves. They have a very nice composition here, and eventually Charlie and Chef, they're going to run out of map. They've got to engage at some point in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I do not like about Mexico at this point is that they are... There we go, Charlie now in H4-2. That is going to be crucial for Ottomans as well, because their units just scale to heaven and beyond.
Yeah, those
culverins. Yeah, the heavy artillery just dying like flies. And we have to give it to Jacob here. He is doing a fantastic job, not just of keeping his ally alive, but now on pushing and providing that coverage against the heavy artillery.
And they've decided they're fully engaging here. Jacob and McCleves are going in. The heavy cannons have been shoved all the way to the back of the map, but now that the culverins are starting to fall behind here, they might actually be able to do some damage. We even have some veteran cures trying to get in on those heavy cannons, and those musketeers body blocking while the Neftenia and the skirmishers put down a ton of damage on the veteran janissaries, and things are looking pretty good for the red and purple team. But now those heavy cannons, look at the volleys here, and my computer cannot keep up with this much action, but they are putting down so much hurt on these big batches of skirmishers and Neftenia. MFD, take over.
This is so brutal, because we just saw a very good fight till this point where they started pushing, because now they just completely lost the control of this fight, and therefore also lost a lot of their artillery, and especially the counter artillery. And now we see what happened. Almost all the infantry is gone. Melee for the Janissaries. Are they H4 already?
Yeah, they already have the guard upgrade. He immediately slammed that down as soon as he aged.
And we had a better composition with a better mass advantage. If they had just pushed with their artillery first and just defend against the Janissaries here, they would have been in a much better spot. But now they're just dead in the water. The entire momentum of the push blown, and both enemies being in H4. Look at Jacob's score at the same time.
Oh my gosh. And now it really looks like Charlie and Chef have taken a commanding lead. And now that those heavy cannons have nothing to fear, oh my, that is disgusting. And meanwhile, the Charos are keeping them pinned and keeping them snared so that the Janissaries can continue to fire. And now he's even got Charos going down. These poor falconets from Jacob, they're going to be lost. Oh my gosh, what a turnaround, MFD. I really thought McCleves and Jacob had that game won.
I was immensely impressed with what they did so far as well. I for sure thought they had the upper hand here, but that's just how you swing when you lose control over 2 H4 civs that really excel at what they're doing. I mean, and just think about the fact that Mexico is not training any villagers at this point. They're just spamming out 3 units being produced by their haciendas and by their factories, and it works. It's Huss, Musk, and artillery.
Conquistadors coming out from McCleves here, but I also want to point out that Jacob and McCleves have actually left a lot of artillery exposed. I mean, they lost the mortar, they lost those falconets, and now that they've got culverins here that are getting shot in the face directly by veteran janissaries, it just seems like the micro is kind of falling apart. They're on the back foot, and their unit control has degraded quite a bit.
Yeah, but I think all of us who have been playing this game for some time do know what happens here, or what happens in these situations. You are sure of your victory, you have all that acceleration from the adrenaline kick and from the feeling that, yeah, you are pushing and you are winning this goddamn fight after being down so much, especially from McCleves' perspective. And then somebody just fumbles the ball and it all goes to shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Sorry for the cussing here.
No, trust me, it's... if any game would warrant it, it's this game, but... yeah, that was such a good fight for Jacob and McCleves, and the culverin control especially was fantastic. And you know, they got their light infantry kind of balled up in between the buildings of the Ottoman base. And the heavy cannons, I said that they were retreating, but they actually kind of put themselves in a great spot to just lambast those light infantry. And we saw how deadly those volleys were. And I wonder if they had just waited for the culverins to keep up, maybe that fight would have gone very differently.
I think I do agree on this one with 100%. Because just the way that they were bunched up at the top of the map, they could not have escaped. They could not have escaped the Janissaries days. And we just saw McCleves and Jacob push up too far with the infantry, and that's the problem. You can brute force falconets with the infantry if you need to, if you really need to. You can't, under no circumstances, do that with heavy cannons. No. And we just saw what came out of it, because they lost so much of the infantry mass, they were absolutely unable to protect from anything there. Yeah, just a few straggling cav going for raids. And I mean, those units are free for Mexico. They don't care. They're just going to push out more and more, annoy them all over the place. And this is where it all falls apart, because you can't keep up with this kind of warfare. No. If you just send 5 units there, 5 units there, the map is completely open for Jacob and McCleves. And Charlie and Chebyshev have actually some walls up there, so it's much harder to get them in their economic centers. And we're just seeing full-on completion of the raid here.
Yeah, and this is the mark of higher level players, right? The guys that can control these small batches of units on either side of the map. I mean, these two batches of cavalry couldn't have been farther from each other, but they're both seeking out villagers. They're both seeking to undermine the opponent's economy, and they're both seeking to just pull as many units away from the main fight as possible. And I think we're seeing one final muster from Charlie and Jeff, and I don't see how Jacob and McCleves overcome 2 Age 4 armies. McCleves is now in Age 4. Maybe this is the time for Ottoman and Mexico to push before Ethiopia can really utilize that Age 4.
Well, that is a brutal raid there as well. I mean, France has been great with villager numbers so far, but the next problem is that these cavalry units fully counter the cures if they are microed properly, which they are not in this situation. Damn it.
No, they're just being shoved in.
Yeah, the problem is the cures, if they are outnumbered, then their splash damage doesn't work too great because they don't get the surround. And here they just were able to hit those overlapping damage attacks and just multiply their usability here. But it doesn't matter because Mexico gets them for free at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And just look at how much investment the Jacob and McCleves had to make to basically deal with what essentially was Mexico's leftovers. And it just goes to show that Age 4 and Age 3, you know, there's such a power difference between those two. I would say even a bigger power difference than Age 2 and Age 3. You know, of course, Age 5 being basically God mode. But, I mean, is there hope for Jacob and McCleves here? If they get a really good fight?
I think the score is extremely close, and especially McCleves is now pulling his weight again after being pushed to death at the start of the game. And the problem is that Jacob is just a bit behind, even though he just hit Age 4. And I still don't like their composition. So I'm having a lot of issues with how they are trying to set this up for the next big fight. I think we do need a lot of calls. I do think that we need some DPS units here to fight this. More skirm goon probably, but
God. That is, hold on, I gotta get to Chef's perspective. That is 6 heavy cannons are on the way, all defended by guard Janissaries and a massive amount of Charos. And I think this is the final push. And I don't know how you stand up to this, MFD.
And McCleves is a bit out of position. We guess he has to pull back. And now we see the Kev coming onto the Culves, the most important piece of the puzzle here. Oh, no. And they are slaughtering.
Oh, this basically...
And just...
This ensures defeat, right? Without Culves, there's no way they hold this.
No, there is no way that TC is not going to go down. And the second one as well, I don't think that this entire front base is going to be standing in a minute from now.
Oh my.
What a precise snipe there by Chebyshev. Yeah. Wonderful work. Diving out again, and now look at all the vills migrating / being slaughtered out of the base.
Yeah, and if he gets into that, oh my god, now the Gasquinia is all bunched up. They could be exposed to this heavy cannon fire, and all 6 heavy cannons are still alive, still being defended by veteran Janissaries, and this is great work by Charlie, not pulling away, not getting teased into chasing this army. He is defending the artillery, even sending in guard Azovs to add another wrinkle into the the problems for Jacob and McCleves. And the retreat has begun, but I think no matter where they go, I think the fight is lost. I don't want to call it this early, but I don't know where you go from here.
Yeah, the issue is if you look at the score as well, we just had, I think, a score difference of 5,000 to 8,000 points, right? And then this fight happened, and now it's, 20,000 points almost? Mm-hmm. So the score is just improving, increasing and increasing with each minute that we play here.
And those Charos are continuing to be such a pest that this Ethiopian army has not been allowed to just sit and focus on one fight for the past 5 minutes. They've just been pulled to every corner of the map because their economies are still so exposed. Meanwhile, look at the other side. We have stone walls coming up over the entire half of the map. And yeah, things are looking really good for Ottoman and Mexico here.
Yeah, and there's almost I want to be honest, there's no way, in my opinion or in my experience, that they can come back from this. Just because the Janissaries at this point, while the DPS of the Gasqueñas on the other side is much higher, the Janissaries are just going to tank them out of the water, and the artillery is what does the damage. And if you can't contest that artillery mass, then the game is over at this point, no matter what you do. And I just don't think they can.
Yeah, and look at this. They're continuing to, they're trying so hard to clean up what's not even the main army, and now the main force has arrived. More Charos are arriving, along with veteran Jans. Still, all 6 heavy cannons are coming up, and these Dragoons might try and get a little snipe here, but these are only veteran Dragoons. It looks like Jacob just doesn't have the resources to utilize Age 4. He can't get any of the upgrades.
And on the other side, the beautiful stuff we see here is those AZEP that we talked about before. They are here for this exact reason, because they knew that if there is anything Dragoon-like coming in, the Charos might not be able to fight it, the Janissaries might not be able to kill it fast enough, so that could be a danger to the artillery, but the AZEPs completely negate that kind of weakness in the situation and army composition.
Yeah.
So well thought out here by the northern team as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I think they're making the right call here, pushing into McCleves' base. I think they've identified that McCleves is the stronger threat right now, and so they've kind of leaving Jacob alone, but they're harassing him just enough to make sure that he can't help out his ally while they use the main push on the Ethiopian base. And both players are just running out of room. They're not going to be able to retreat much longer.
Yeah, and quite literally, because I think that is the last of Jacob's economy that is being slaughtered right there in this last remaining TC. And I think you put it very beautifully. They're just occupying, literally, the base of Jacob, making sure he can't get anything going while they are slowly but surely pushing McCleves dead.
Yeah, nice cure pop, but I don't think it's going to be enough. You know, at the beginning, I thought Charlie was definitely carrying, and I think he was for a while, you know, getting all those Janissaries out, protecting the artillery. But now Chef has really shown his skill in the later ages, you know, where some players, as soon as they start getting in, you know, past the 30-minute mark, their attention, their APM, their micro starts to fall off a little bit. But Chef has only gotten better as the game has gone on.
Two things I do want to point out there. First of all, I fully agree on Jacob. I think without him, this game would have been over in the first 8 minutes, to be honest. If he hadn't played such a tremendous role in defending, and then in the surround that killed the first push and killed the first entire artillery mass of the enemy, that was huge for him. But the problem here with Chef, where I do not agree with what you said, is that while you can talk about micro and all those things, while the Gasqueñas get slaughtered,
oh my gosh,
Chevy plays a Civ where he doesn't need to do a lot of different decisions on micro or macro. He just needs to micro his units right now because his units spawn for free because of the villagers.
That is
so
true.
He has a lot more attention on the fight here, and that's the problem what I talked about before. You can't brute force heavy cannons with infantry. Not even Gasqueñas can that.
Oh my
can do that.
gosh. That is disgusting.
But should look good on a thumbnail, I guess.
Oh my, well, yeah. I don't know, MFD. This was such a insane game. And the name of the replay, hold on. Let me actually. Okay, the name of the replay is actually insane.
Yeah.
And I think the title proved to be true, because this was so back and forth. You know, at the start, it really looked like it was in the favor of Ottoman and Mexico. And then we had that amazing pincered attack by Jacob and McCleves. And then that awesome push in Age 3. And then just the resistance and the counterattack by Charlie and Chef. It's been so much fun to watch. And look at that. The heavy cannons have finally gone down. We might be seeing the comeback here. It might happen, MFD. I'm not going to give up.
You're more optimistic than I am, for sure. But yeah, I think that our boys in red and what's the color purple?
Oh, yeah.
Have put up a wonderful fight and a wonderful show for ourselves. And they can be proud of that game. I think it just all fell apart at that one push where they succumbed to the heavy cannon onslaught against infantry. And that was where Charlie and Chebyshev really could take back the game and took all the momentum away from them as well.
You got to love the double and triple layered walls, even though they never were even close to being threatened. But, I mean, again, we see another point here where we see one base that is very protected and very well defended, and then we see another base that was, constantly susceptible to cav raids by Chef there. And those Charles are such an annoying unit because they are so fast and they are so hard to pin down and kill. But, yeah, I agree with everything you said there, MFD. That was a tremendous game, and you know as well as I do that getting this together was not easy.
If you guys don't know the circumstances around this, but not just the game itself, but actually getting this rec to work again was also a bit of a tricky one.
And then the time zones and all that, but you know what? It was worth all of the hassle because this was a great game. Huge shout out to Jacob and McCleves and Charlie and Chef. You guys will be the first ones to know this recording. We're recording it on Monday. It's going up on Tuesday. I cannot wait for you guys to all see it. And for those of you wondering how much fun team games can be, if you are a 1v1 player and looking to branch out, try some 2v2s. Find a friend and find a unit composition that you both like to play, because wow, team games you see things in team games that you'll never see in 1v1. But MFD, I'm going to get your thoughts on how the game went, but first, let's go to the post game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the post game, and MFD, I'm going to kick it straight to you. What are your thoughts looking at the resources tab? What is your first observation from this game?
Two things. I think the most important one, kudos to McCleves coming back from being down to 12 vills or something where everybody else was 25 and beyond, to being almost on top of his enemies, resource-wise at least, and Chebyshev on the other side. And that is what I meant. At the point where he got to H4, I think it's a card. You send a card that you can use your villagers to spawn cav instead of gathering resources on the haciendas. And that's what we are seeing here. Absolutely no economy at all, but just pumping out units. And that's what also enables you to do those raids at several places at the same time. He needs less attention on his macro side, more attention on the battlefield. And if he loses units, who cares?
Right. And I mean, how many games are you going to see Ottoman in the lead with resources? I think I've seen that only a couple of times. But when
you would be surprised.
Oh my gosh. And when you move on to the military tab, 263 for Ottoman, 204, 187, 299 for McCleves. Man, you are right. He came back from what looked to be a dead position, something I would have resigned. And wow, did he put up an amazing fight there.
Did for sure. We do see the artillery player taking the cake though when you go to units killed. I mean, you have to see that in comparison, of course, but 156 Charos, not a single one of those he paid for.
Oh, that is ridiculous. And losing very few units as well. Meanwhile, we can see, I think this is where most of those 356 kills came from. The Neftenya and the Gaskenya just getting obliterated at the end there by the heavy cannons. And I think that's where Chef really got a lot of those kills. And, kudos to Charlie as well, not taking the most kills, but without his Janissaries, these 206 Jans, this number here by the Mexican player just does not happen.
Yeah. For sure. That's the point, though, because he went for the defending unit, the one that made sure that the artillery was kept intact, more or less, I guess. And then your job is not to kill. Your job is just to be the meat shield who gets all, shot up and all that, but does protect the artillery pieces, and that he did for sure.
Yeah, and you can see it on the graph more clearly here. About the 8-minute mark, as he gets aged up, this is when his base just gets ransacked. He went down to 11 villagers. And by the end of the game, before, the game was pretty much over, he got all the way up to 57, which was higher than his teammate and almost as high as one of the other opponents. Meanwhile, Charlie just taking off here in vill count, ending with 100 villagers. I guess it's easy when you don't have to pay for them, right?
Yeah, and also just think about the fact that still he only outgathered McCleves by 2,000 resources.
Wow.
So that says something about the insane economy that McCleves Ethiopia has here.
Oh,
Military unit count, that one is important. Look at that big fight to think at what, 20 minutes or so, somewhere in the middle
yeah,
there?
20, 25 minutes. McCleves is at 113 military pop, goes all the way down to 28. Meanwhile, Jacob at 67 with some more expensive units, going all the way down to 7. And yeah, Charlie and, Chef lost some units as well, but wow. I think this moment here, the 25-minute mark, this is where it went from basically an even game, maybe in favor of France and Ethiopia, to a slow death by the hands of the Mexicans and the Ottomans.
Absolutely. And if you want to give that a different perspective, do click on military unit population, because one thing that is not showing up is, that's artillery.
Oh.
Yellow now, that means that both players, Jacob and McCleves, more or less were at the top with their military capacities, because there's over 100 military pop we see on the field there from both players.
Wow.
The other team doesn't have 100 combined, or almost, if you think.
Yeah, they got 108. No, 110 combined. And wow, but look at this. Like, it's basically just a reversal, because just a few minutes before that, Jacob and McCleves were at 220 units, and then all the way down to 120. Meanwhile, Chef and Charlie just took off.
That's what happened here. The French and the Ethiopians went in there trying to claim the victory and come out as heroes, but they just got turned into minced meat.
Wow. Well, that was a fantastic game. MFD, I cannot thank you enough. I know it was not easy to come on here, but
I would fully appreciate it being here with you again and casting with you again, mate. Let's make it happen. I can't tell you when we're going to do that, but I'm for sure in for another one. Especially if we get games like this, let's be honest. So shout out to all Flare players again, and shout out to you for getting kind of wrecks like this.
Well, hey, we do what we can. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. A regular 1v1 cast, just going solo on Thursday. But until then, guys, have a great day. Have a great life. See you later.